Alright, so this time we are on the next requested map, which is Humpback Pumptrack. A lot of people expressed that this was kind of a weird map to play, and I think I have a few explanations as to why. So why don't we start this video talking about why Humpback feels so odd to play on, especially in comparison to a lot of the maps. So there's a few things to focus on, but I think the first one is zone. So zone in this map is more important than it is usually. And that's for a few reasons. First off, it's in the center of the map, which is kind of normal. But second, it is also the high ground, as you might have noticed. This is about the highest point in the stage, and certainly by far the highest point you have access to from the middle of the map, which means it is a very important position to control. When we did Mako Mart, for instance, if I go back to Mako briefly, look at zone. Zone is still in the center, but there's stacks on the sides that are how you control the zone. For Humpback, you control the zone from the zone, which means in order to have an easier time holding this, you really need to push ahead of the zone. Because if you're kind of just standing in zone, it's very easy to get displaced and have the special be hit by, have the zone be hit by specials at the same time. So what's really important to understand in zones in general is you don't want specials hitting both you and the objective. This is especially true when you have stuff like bubble or strikes or reef slider that can cap. There's like many different ways to lose zone from specials, and so you really want to burn those off the zone and push ahead of it. Which is also where this map gets a little bit weird, which is its push routes. This map kind of has like a little plus sign with its routes, if you notice. So there's this and this, where you get to your routes. You basically have to either go straight through the center or straight all the way furthest to the sides of the map to be able to move anywhere, which is really different than like pretty much any other stage. These obviously lead into different routes, like this one leads to this push angle, this one leads to this push angle, and this one leads to going to the left. But the point is you kind of have to go in these very split off angles. So because of that, you usually only tend to commit to 2 out of the 3, or if you commit to all of them, look how spread out your lineup of players is going to be. So that's going to be pretty tricky to work around. This map leads to people being either very clumped up in mid and getting special to death, or trying to push up but unintentionally spreading themselves way too thin and getting punished for it. And all of this has another problem, which is the good old classic one-way drop. This entire thing in zones, and the other modes I know it's a little different, but you know, that's a topic for another time. On zones, this whole thing is a one-way drop. The only way to go backwards is over here. To go here, you have to jump onto grates, do another jump onto the block, fall into this little area, and then swim through an exposed area, and then finally you get to be in cover. Now you could retreat back here, which is what happens a lot of the time, but you don't really have anywhere to go from here. You're kind of just as equally stuck here as you would be normally. You can get pinned from 2 different routes, you can get bomb spam, so you could try to hold this area, but if the other team is pushing really aggressively, this isn't really going to be a safe spot for a while. So all of that combines into a very awkward feeling stage that you very much need to know how to approach and how to deal with it in order to move forward with it. So obviously there's an AoE favored stage as well. I feel like I should mention that real quick, but it's pretty obvious, like the whole map is like that. So let's talk about some of the key positions of this stage. So let's get Pencil out first of all. Where is Pencil? Spawn somewhere. I'm like clicking it. Oh, there we go. 3 of them just spawned. Guess that's a little lag. There we go. Alright, we can drag one over here, right? So let's start by talking about anchors on defense on this map. I'm going to use Pen for the example here, but really can apply to others as well, because I think it's kind of, this is one of the maps where backlines have a bit more of a dynamic set of positioning. So there's this spot, center of zone, top left, top right, and pushing all the way up here are all different anchor positions you will see on the stage. Wow, actually a lot. That's kind of cool. I like that. So this is probably the most standard you will see anchors go to. And the idea is pretty simple. Oh, and I guess defensively, like up here, if you're retaking this spot, you'll pretty much always stand up here. So this spot has a few different responsibilities already. For one, if people are flanking left side, it could be a bit tricky to deal with. It's not too hard for attackers to get over there, and Pen doesn't want to have to look over here, because remember what we talked about before, doesn't want to look away from the zone. If it can look at the zone, it can paint it very effectively, but it also can't really manage the trench at all. It can't really deal with any enemies sitting down here sharking. There's also plenty of cover to hide from Pen, so Pen gets a little bit tricky from this position. This drop over here makes it a little bit more susceptible. Again, you still have two different routes to approach it from. But Pen here gets a little bit better sights. If nobody gets up this wall, Pen can usually control it, because like I said, you have to like jump on grades to jump up here. Pen can punish you for that. You get to have a little bit further range, a little bit better control in the zone. That's nice. And then from zone, here you can kind of get shots on people who peek out through this area, or if people get too greedy over here. And you can kind of look at people over here, but you get spread very thin. You kind of have to watch a lot of different angles. So Pen sitting here without anyone pushed up to take either of these positions is going to struggle quite a bit. And that leads to the more aggressive positions. Sometimes Pen can retreat this way and try to play this angle, but more often than not, your goal is to try and get a Pen all the way up here onto this wall, where then it just can control and like completely demand space over this entire corner of the map and force everyone on the defending team into this route, which is much easier for your team to deal with. So, why did I start talking about this with Pen? I believe Pen is like a very good example for how the map is played, for the little line the stage tends to be played on. I see most teams tend to go like something like this would be the line that people move on, but it's a lot more, there's a lot more freedom you can do on this map. But the main thing to keep in mind is that when teams are holding, they really want to control either this space or this space. You really want to have one or the other to restrict the other team, because what makes Humpback possible to retake on sometimes easily, despite the lack of, two-way routes, is how wide your attacker angle is from. This is a very wide set of approach options, and so you need to condense them down. So let's say you get this area down here, and you have like a bucket or a blaster under here. Now this wide angle is cut off like this. Now it's only this small. They can drop down here, but you're going to win most of the fights here. This is a tiny little area that most weapons are going to be able to win on, so you can clear this space. Similarly, if you push up and you control this quadrant of the map, then the other team either has to try and fight through here directly, or they can go around. So let's use the latter. Let's say they try to go around. Very easy to similarly have a bucket or someone here and punish it. But this time, instead of just going over here and dealing with the guys down there, they also have to worry about some kind of front line pushing over here. Like maybe there's a slider pushing through, or a Tetra rolling around, or a crab tank crossfiring here, or a Pen crossfiring here, or whatever. And so you get pinned from two different sides, and your only way out is either to run directly into the other team, or one-way drop into everything over here. If you do decide to contest directly and ignore this guy down here, you have to fight and try to clear this space, which is another one-way drop, only to then clear a second one to get to zone. And that's another thing worth noting. I already talked about how this map is a bit of a bowl. This is also a one-way drop. This entire thing over here is another one. So in order to retake to zone, you have to deal with two of these back to back. And that's where a lot of the difficulty with the stage tends to show itself. That is a tough task. So when people push up very far, it's very simple. And then if you're the attackers and something goes wrong, let's say you are, let's get our Pen over here, right? Let's say you have an enemy Pen up here set up. And the defense says, fuck it, we really need to get this Pen out, and they pop a crab. Or, yeah, let's say they do a crab, right? Why not? Crabs are simple. Let's say they pop a crab all the way over here to deal with it. Alright, that's cool. You could just back up. Now this crab is gone all the way over here. Now you don't have a crab over here. Or over here. And you don't have to deal with it. And you could burn the specials early, because that's the whole point of pushing up more aggressively, is either to burn specials early, or to get team fights where you're going to get kills, which guess what? Kills delay. These, you don't deal with them as soon because of that. So I think the flow of this map is very much a getting back your spawn and mostly preventative defense. You don't want a full wipe on this map, because if you can maintain some weapon with space over this area, you can generally keep this. Weapons like 52 tend to be really good on this map because they can just go here and be really annoying with wall. But for the most part, it's not too tricky to deal with, and this side is very similar deal. The approaches are going to be something you can prevent ahead of time if you're looking at it. Once you get in a zone, though, I think the main thing is committing 2 out of 3 on the approach options. Generally, you're going to have someone going through middle, because it's middle. But I think either commit to the left side or commit to the right side. Do 2 out of 3. So if I'm pushing, mainly you'll see it like this. But if you want to take left side, you know, maybe you have like multiple AoE weapons or something like that, then commit to the left side and take this position. Someone will still need to watch, but like this is the area you want to take. And then finally is to be wary of trench. Particularly, you'll see this with like this drop down here playing in the trench, because this is a really good vector to keep people looking away from zone. It's hard to deal with the flank, and it's hard to quickly kill people down here. So even if this position seems a little bit limited, it's very good to pull attention away for other people to move in. But I think that's about everything I have to stay on the stage. Now that it's not in Splatoon 2, where specials just were way too good on it, I think I enjoy it a bit more. Specials definitely still do feel a little too powerful on this stage at times. However, I do like the wider routes. I wish there weren't as many one-way drops. The other modes do fix that a little bit while adding some different problems. But for the most part, I think this stage does at least feel fairly unique, and Splatoon 3 has a lot of similar feeling stages. So, hey, I'm down for one that's a little bit different. And hopefully this helps for Humpback. Let me know what stage you want next, and we'll get to it later.